All right, so we will move on to step 11. So we're on page 85 at the bottom of the page. And we're going to highlight that first little sentence there. Step 11 suggests prayer and meditation. Okay, just highlight that. Now, I want everybody to, and I'm not going to call on anybody, but I want everybody in the room, and hopefully you've done your fourth and fifth step and talked about this, but think about the two worst things you've ever done in your life. Think about the two worst things you've ever done in your life, and then ask yourself, could I have done those if I was living in the sunlight of the Spirit? Right? Could I have done that if I was living in the sunlight of the Spirit? You know, the same God that created the boundary waters, the hippopotamus, the stars. You know, I don't think I could have done those things if I was asking God for help. I'm pretty sure I couldn't have, right? And that's why we gotta keep up with our prayer and our meditation. Gosh, I just heard something, and I don't care how anybody prays. For me, when I walk, I stand. When I drive, I sit. When I sleep, I lay down. And when I pray, I kneel. You know, but that's me. My sponsor said it doesn't matter, how you do it. He said the two most important things about prayer are number one, that you start, and number two, that you continue. So step 11 suggests prayer and meditation. We shouldn't be shy on this matter of prayer. Better men than we are using it constantly. Underline the next sentence. It works if we have the proper attitude and work at it. Okay, so next to that we can write, we get better with practice. It's like anything. We get better with practice. I mean, when I first started trying to pray, it was pretty funny, God, I don't know if you're out there. I don't know if you can hear me. If there's any way you can help me get through this day without drinking. I mean, it was pretty funny, I think. But, you practice at it and you get better. It would be easy to be vague about this matter, yet we believe we can make some definite and valuable suggestions. So we can draw, next to where it says, when we retire at night, write a big PM. These are the PM prayers. Right? And we've got them all on the sheets here, but I highlighted those and the AM prayers. But when we retire at night, we constructively review our day. Were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? My gosh, we're doing 4 again. Do we owe an apology? We're looking at 8 and 9 again. Have we kept something to ourselves which should be discussed with another person at once? We're looking at step 5 there. Were we kind and loving toward all? I mean, for me, that's a good goal to have. I never get there, but what could we have done better? Were we thinking of ourselves most of the time, or were we thinking of what we could do for others, of what we could pack into the stream of life? Again, I got that whole paragraph highlighted. But we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection. So right next to morbid reflection, we're going to write, beat self up about past. Okay? Beat self up about past. And that could be as simple as, something that you did during that very day. Right? And I say, I'm going to open this up. I'm getting hot. I could have done something at work and I get home and I say, John, you've been sober 5.5 years and how could you have done that? You are the worst. You haven't learned anything. You're the worst person ever. That is such a horrible thing that you did. The book says we can't do that. We cannot do that, right? So if we practice step 10, we're going to take care of the mistakes that we made. We're going to say, hey, I was wrong. And we're going to dissolve that misunderstanding. And if we do that, we don't have to beat ourselves up about it. We took care of it. Right? And the main reason for that is, for that would diminish our usefulness to others. Right? That's why we can't do it. We can't call ourselves losers and this and that, right? For that would diminish our usefulness to others. After making our review, we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken. Right there, right? So what do we got to do to make this better? So we can draw a little line under should be taken, and underneath it we can write morning prayers. Morning prayers, right? So that's AM when you get up. On awakening, and again I highlighted the whole thing because it's just the prayers, but on awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day before we begin, right? There's these prayers, I'm not going to number them because we got them on the sheet here. We ask God to direct our thinking, especially that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. Important prayer. Under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties with assurance. For after all, God gave us brains to use. Our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives. Okay? On awakening. In thinking about our day, we may face indecision. We may not be able to determine which course to take. Here's another prayer. Here we ask God for inspiration, an intuitive thought, or a decision. We relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. We are often surprised how the right answers will come after we have tried this for a while. Now at the bottom of the page, I wrote, have sponsee call after PM prayers. I mean, if you've got somebody that's really struggling, I mean, that's just one of these little things that you can have your sponsee do. Hey, man, when you're done with your evening prayers, give me a call, right? And some of these things, the way I used to be, if I had a problem going on in my head, I would put that information into my head and I would demand an answer. I gotta solve it, and I gotta solve it now. And it would come out, does not compute. I'd shove it back in my head. I gotta solve it now, does not compute. Here it says we ask him for inspiration, right? So God, I need help with this, man. I don't know what to do. Please help me. And then we go about our business. We just go about our day. Maybe an hour later, something will pop into my head like, call Todd. Maybe Todd will know what to do about that, right? We don't try to get it right away. We relax and we take it easy. We don't struggle. We are often surprised how the right answers come after we have tried this for a while. And it's like anything, we get better the more we practice these things. What used to be the hunch or the occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. Being still inexperienced and having just made conscious contact with God, it is not probable that we are going to be inspired at all times. We might pay for this presumption in all sorts of absurd actions and ideas. Nevertheless, we find that our thinking will, as time passes, be more and more on the plane of inspiration. We come to rely upon it. Right? So our thought life is going to become better, man. And our intuitive thinking is going to become better, right? I still like to run things by people that I know, though. I don't want to, get myself into trouble. So at the top of the page, we're going to write a little something. First thing in morning, thank God for being alive and thank Him for the day. That's just a suggestion that I was given. First thing in the morning, thank God for being alive and thank Him for the day. How can I be of service to you and my fellows? How can I be of service to you and my fellows? Lead by example. Try to be free of anger and fear. I know we're writing a lot. Spiritual, mental, and emotional sobriety versus being dry. First thing in the morning, thank God for being alive. Thank Him for the day. How can I be of service to you and my fellows? Lead by example. Lead by example. Try to be free of anger and fear. Right? And we do this at spiritual, mental, and emotional sobriety versus being dry. When I came in here and I tried to get sober without working the steps, I was an angry, dry guy. Right? Dry, drunk, still an asshole. So first thing in the morning, thank God for being alive. Thank Him for the day. How can I be of service to you and my fellows? Lead by example. Try to be free of anger and fear. Spiritual, mental, and emotional sobriety versus being dry. I don't ever want to have to go back to being dry. When I was dry, it was like I was doing time. I might as well have been in prison. Right? Until I could take my next drink. We usually conclude the period of meditation with a prayer. It's another prayer here. That we be shown all through the day what our next step is to be. That we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. Let's highlight to the end of the paragraph. We ask especially for freedom from self-will and are careful to make no request for ourselves only. We may ask for ourselves, however, if others will be helped. We are careful never to pray for our own selfish ends. Many of us have wasted a lot of time doing that and it doesn't work. You can easily see why. So pray for our own selfish ends. Next to that you can write foxhole prayers. Foxhole prayers. God, get me out of this one and I promise I'll never do it again. You know, God, I got this little financial problem. If you just help me out here, and if it's okay if I tell a couple of lies to get out of this financial issue that I'm having, you know, God, you know, golly, are you going to mind if I cheat a little bit on my taxes, just a little bit? Right? If circumstances warrant, we ask our wives or friends to join us in morning meditation. If we belong to a religious denomination which requires a definite morning devotion, we attend to that also. So he's given us instructions that if we belong to some group or whatnot, that we should do that as well. If not, members of religious bodies, we sometimes select and memorize a few set prayers which emphasize the principles we have been discussing. There are many helpful books also. Suggestions about these may be obtained from one's priest, minister, or rabbi. Underline this next sentence. Be quick to see where religious people are right. You know, in my past life, they were never right. They were always wrong. Make use of what they offer. So we've got another prayer right here. We can highlight the bottom 3 lines. And at the bottom of the page, let's write, opposite of fear is faith. Opposite of fear is faith. Opposite of fear is faith. As we go through the day, we pause when agitated or doubtful. Right? That happens to me a lot, and I never did this, even in my early sobriety. I just used to go crazy all day. But as we go through the day, we pause when agitated or doubtful. We ask for the right thought or action. We constantly remind ourselves we are no longer running the show. Right? Humbly saying to ourselves many times each day, another prayer, thy will be done. Thy will be done. So let's highlight the next 3 lines. We are then in much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. We become much more efficient. Right? Remember how we used to run around trying to make people think we're somebody that we're not, and we used to run around trying to control all this stuff that we couldn't control, but we tried anyway, and we just exhausted ourselves and made a big mess. We do not tire so easily, so we got a lot more energy. For we are not burning up energy foolishly as we did when we were trying to arrange life to suit ourselves. Right? I always used to think that I had to try to control every situation and all these other people in my life rather than working these steps and changing myself so that I can accept things the way they are, right? Changing myself so I can be a better person and handle these life situations better. I tried to change life. No wonder it never worked, man. It works, it really does. We alcoholics are undisciplined. So we let God discipline us in the simple way we have just outlined. But that is not all. There is action and more action. Highlight that. There is action and more action. Faith without works is dead. There's that faith without works is dead again. The next chapter is entirely devoted to step 12. Okay, so I just got a few more notes we'll read on the 11th step. And one thing I like, and I sometimes say this at meetings, I say, if you want to drink, that's your problem. But if you want to stop, then that's our problem. Right? Because people who come in here and they want to stop and they can't, those are the people that I want to help. Right? And action is the magic word. If we do the work, we're going to get better. Now, this book that we're reading, Bill started to write this book when he was 3 years sober. Right? If somebody's only 3 years sober, I mean, I'm not even going to borrow my car, right? I'm not going to let them into my house if I'm not there, if they're only 3 years sober, right? I'm not even going to allow somebody 3 years sober to get me coffee because they'll probably screw it up. But Bill Wilson started writing this book with no medical training, no psychological training, no religious training, no sociological training, right? He was a night school lawyer. He was selling fast talk to slow-thinking people in the forms of stocks and bonds, right? His whole life he had been selfish and self-centered. There's no way on earth that Bill should have been able to write one of the most profound and effective pieces of spiritual literature ever, right? He's given us the spiritual instructions that have saved the lives of millions of alcoholics, right? And he started this when he was 3 years sober, man. Unbelievable. 15 years later, after studying with the greatest and conversing with the greatest psychological, medical, sociological, and religious minds of the time, I believe, and this is just my thinking, that Bill himself wrote the 12 and 12, right? I think that the inspiration he got to write the big book was unbelievable. Now, I'm not saying I don't like the 12 and 12. I do. I love the 12 and 12 because it helps me better work the steps. But I don't think he got the inspiration he received when he was writing the big book. And by the way, only the big book has definite instructions on how to work the steps. The 12 and 12 does not, right? And, thank God Bill did not know very much about prayer or meditation or spirituality when he wrote the book, right? Because if he did, I was spiritually bankrupt when I came in. And somebody as bankrupted spiritually as me would not have been able to understand it if it came down from on high, right? Like from the Dalai Lama or something, right? He tells us that we do the actions first and our mind will follow. Every other therapy in the world says change your thinking first and then your actions will get better. But we're backwards people. AA tells us we've got to change our actions first and then our thinking will get better, right? I look at this big book as a living and breathing document because every time I go through it, it's like somebody snuck into my room and changed what it says, right? And anybody, because I get different meanings out of it every single time. Anyone who has had the privilege of guiding sick and dying alcoholics, and I say privilege, I don't say chore, I don't say burden, I don't say onus, but a privilege of helping sick and dying alcoholics through its pages and seeing them become restored to life and go help still others, gets to witness this every time they go through the book. Right? It changes. It's living and breathing. Again, I mean, I'll read the same thing and I'll read it a week later and I'll get something completely different out of it. It takes on new meaning. Steps 10 and 11, it says our next function is to grow, not to maintain. Right? One of the phrases that kind of got changed on me a little bit was it says that it's contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition, right? Let me see if I can, page 85, if I can find that. That's an important one. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. That means not what our spiritual condition is. I'm going to have days where I feel like crap. I'm going to have days where my spiritual condition might not be very good, right? But it's on the maintenance. What that means is that my reprieve is based on what I do. It's based on what I do. Did I get up in the morning even though I'm feeling like crap, and did I ask God for help? Did I show up for work did I make my bed? Did I show up for work on time? Did I treat people with respect and dignity throughout the day? If I made a mistake, did I clean it up? Right? Did I try to help people? Right? It's contingent on the maintenance, what we do, not on how we feel. I used to think that was based on how I felt, and that's not it at all. Right? So it's a daily reprieve not based on our spiritual condition, but on the maintenance of what we do. It's like when you maintain your car, it's going to last a lot longer, man, than if you don't do anything. So it's based on what we do. Our actions on a daily basis. Step 10 and 11, actions. Every day is a day when we must, right? Carry God's will into all our activities. We follow directions, not suggestions. And spirituality, guys, again, for me, it's following a set of rules. And I'll never forget, I was in college. I was a senior in college, and we were drinking a case of beer and smoking pot, getting ready to go out to the bars, right, like we always did. And on comes Magnum PI. And Magnum, there was a samurai that went to Hawaii, and he had lost an artifact of some sort. And if he was not able to get that artifact back for his boss, the samurai was going to commit harikari. And Magnum looked at him and he said, "That's ridiculous. I'm not going to let you kill yourself because you can't get this silly thing back," right? And the samurai, he looked at Magnum and he said, Magnum-san, I live my life by a code. And that code is what gives my life meaning. And if I don't live by that code, my life has no meaning. So, he convinced Magnum that if he didn't get this thing back, he was going to do what his code required. And I now live by a code, right? The two most important days in your life, right? Everybody, the day you're born and the day you die. But that's not it at all. The two most important days in your life are the day you're born, and then the day you figure out what your purpose is, or what your meaning in life is, right? So we try to live by a code. Step 11 instructions are going to help. Step 10 and 11. And spirituality is definitely living, for me, it's living by a code. I'm a hothead, man. I'm a commissioned salesman, and I constantly get pulled back into the world of the material, right? And I get pissed off. That's my deal, God damn it! That son of a bitch over there, and I constantly get pulled in and away from this program and from God and spirituality, right? So things become important: looks, money, status, recognition, right? All these things, and I get away from the things that I'm supposed to do. I become dishonest. I become prideful. I become greedy. I stop doing the things my book tells me to do. And then I start to think of myself only, and pretty soon all my old problems come back. They all come back, man. And that's because I'm thinking about John, right? And then I start to think about taking a drink, a toke, or a pill, right? Now, luckily, up to this point in my sobriety, I'm always able to say, "John, you knucklehead, you're not following the instructions of the book, in the book." Now, the good news for us is that we can get right back on track. Even if our life gets completely out of control, I don't take that doggone drink, I can immediately hit my knees and ask God for help. God's going to be right there. I can come back to you guys. I can ask for help. You guys are going to be right there. So we can immediately start over. And even if we do take a drink, we still can start over too. Luckily, in the last 6 years, I've not taken that drink. Hallelujah. So we go back to the instructions. Now, if I let things go too far, and I'm right near the precipice where my life is messed off, I'm pissing people off again, I'm thinking about John only, and I'm really thinking about taking a drink, then I might have to go back and do a formal step 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 again. Or I can do a couple of minutes in the morning. I can practice step 10 during the day, and I can do a couple of things at night. And I won't, and that crap won't build up, right? Somewhere it says that pain is the touchstone of all spiritual progress. Unfortunately, some of us alcoholics, even in sobriety, have to go through a lot of pain before we get back on track, right? Now, a lot of people think step 11, and they talk about it, about living in the moment, and I think that's wonderful. I'm not that far advanced. Most days, I'm lucky if I can keep one foot in the world of the spirit, right? Just keep it in there. Now, I have discovered that people who have woken up spiritually, at least people like me, right, we don't exist on some high, lofty, metaphysical plane, but when you've woken up spiritually, you're no longer thirsty, right? You're no longer thirsty. So what that means is I'm now aware of spiritual things. Doesn't mean I'm some kind of Dalai Lama. It just means I'm aware that I should be out there helping people. I'm aware that most people are probably good, right? I'm aware that I should be asking God for help, and I'm aware that I should try to treat people with patience, tolerance, kindness, and love, right? I'm aware of that now. And most days that's good enough, man. Most days that keeps me just fine. Thomas Jefferson wrote, "Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty." So that means we inventory in steps 10 and 11. We inventory to keep our freedom, right? Some of the signs that we're going to get when we're doing this on a regular basis: number one, we're going to have a deep sense of gratitude. Another one, we're going to feel that we belong in the world. Another one is we're going to have growth of our self-esteem, right? We can look in the mirror and not have to look away. And then we're going to have feelings that we have rights and that we're worthy. We're actually, well, you know what? I deserve this. I used to say, I don't deserve anything, right? That's the way I used to think. God does not want us to fail. Pythagoras, another quote, I love this. Pythagoras, I think he maybe was a Greek mathematician. But he said, "Don't pray for yourself. You do not know what will help you." And I think that's true. The other question that my sponsor asked me said, "Are you asleep at the wheel of your own life?" And I used to be asleep at the wheel of my own life. Another question we got to ask ourselves: how is our relationship with God? Right? So again, we can inventory every day, or we can wait until we almost want to get drunk. Right? But if we do it every day, we're going to find that we're going to have harmony with God, harmony with ourselves, and harmony with other people. And I mean, that's one heck of a benefit. Real quick, if we just look at this step 11, prayers and meditations. I have one of these on my little nightstand, and I'll do the here. Actually, on page 20 in the big book, it says, "Our very lives as ex-problem drinkers depend upon our constant thought of others and how we may help meet their needs." Right? That's a pretty tall order there. But let's look at on retiring at night. Okay, so right before I go to bed, I don't do this every night. I'm lucky if I do it 2 or 3 times a week. I'm lucky, but it only takes a couple of minutes. Maybe, and John, were you resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Most nights, yeah, some of them. Do you owe an apology? Maybe, maybe not. Hopefully I took care of it. Have you kept something to yourself which should be discussed with another person at once? Hello, sponsor. Were you kind and loving toward all? That's another tall order. What could you have done better? Well, I could have done this better. I could have done that better. Were you thinking of yourself most of the time, or were you thinking of what you could do for others, of what you could pack into the stream of life? Be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection, for that would diminish your usefulness to others. So we don't beat ourselves up, right? We try to fix it if we've done anything. And then after, and I just read this, and it's a minute or two. God, please forgive me and tell me what corrective measures should be taken, right? Then we go to the morning prayers on awakening. And I read this every morning. God, I ask you to direct my thinking. I especially ask that my thinking be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. Think about the 24 hours ahead. Consider your plans for the day. So when Bill was writing about meditation, everybody thinks, it's Eastern meditation. I think it's like in the old days when a general would meditate how a battle is going to come out, right? We're considering our plans for the day, right? So I run through my day, what I think is going to happen. If you are faced with indecision, pray. I ask for inspiration, an intuitive thought, or a decision. Right? After considering your plans for the day, pray. God, I pray I be shown all through the day what my next step is to be. I pray I be given whatever I need to take care of such problems. I ask especially for freedom from self-will. I ask that I be given strength only if others will be helped. I love this one too. My Creator, I ask that you show me the way of patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. I got to remind myself every morning that I'm supposed to act that way, right? I got a short memory. God, what can I do today for the man who is still sick? If you have any resentments you want to be free of, right? So God, I ask that everything I want for myself be given to, right? Noel, Anna, Tom, Jerry, right? There's like some people that I work with. I kind of throw them in there and I say it every morning. That way when they do stuff, I don't get angry. It really works. I ask for Noel, Anna, Tom, and Jerry's health, prosperity, and happiness, right? So they can do almost anything and I don't have to get angry. Throughout the day, constantly remind yourself, I am no longer running the show. Say to yourself many times, thy will be done. God, please give me the right thought or action. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. And if somebody does offend you, this is a sick man. How can I be helpful to him? God save me from being angry, right? Gosh, he flew off the handle. I bet the home office came down on him. I bet he had an angry customer, or something happened. How can I be helpful to him? God save me from being angry. Thy will be done. So I guess we're done a little bit early today. But these are things that I used to, my first couple years of sobriety, I was spiritual for 1 hour a day because I went to a meeting every night, right? But my life started to get a little bit screwed up and I learned that I could practice these principles throughout the day with God's help, and all of a sudden I'm getting along with everybody better, getting along with myself better, and I'm getting along with God better. So, we will end with the 7-step prayer. Page 76. My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen.